G'day there, Wealth Press subscribers, viewers, traders, and investors. It's that time again. It's a Monday morning roundtable, and today I'm joined by Adam Sarhan, Jeff Zandaniri, and Jeff Yasteen. Gentlemen, welcome.
Hey, how are you?
I am doing great. I feel like I woke up this morning and all the diseases have been cured. Money no longer has any cost. All assets are going up. Bitcoin at $50,000, copper at $3.80 a pound, oil at $60 a barrel. Jeff Yasteen, we're going to start with you today. What is going on out there? Has all of the negativity been taken out of the market?
Yeah, you're exactly right, and that's where I get most instinctively worried. But at the same time, I'm just going to repeat what I've said before. The melt up continues until proven otherwise. We can just continue to drift sideways to higher here for a while until the market does what it's going to do. And we've spoken about this plenty in past weeks and months, many months. I mean, the Fed and the federal government have primed financial assets to move higher with this very easy money environment. And the main thing we can do as investors is look for where that money and where the next opportunities are going to leak out to next. And I noticed last week, I think it was JP Morgan strategist came out and with a report saying they've declared the beginning of the, I think they called it the fifth commodity super cycle. And, that's no news to all of us. And we've been talking about this for months, but it shows you that the mainstream folks are feeling comfortable enough with all this to make that sort of declaration. And to me, it just shows that there's a lot more opportunities that nobody's really picked over yet in the commodities area as the rest of the world kind of piles into that area that many of us have been playing in for a while now.
Mm-hmm. So Jeff Z, what do you think of the Zoom boom in the copper space? Is that a sign and oil? Is that a sign of the expected exuberance in the economy for 2021?
To build on what Jeff Yasteen just said, I think that it's very obvious that there's an economic there's an economic rebound that's much more robust and more pronounced in places where COVID is getting under control, like Asia, et cetera. And we're seeing a pent up demand for people to want to travel. They're wanting to come to Florida. They're wanting to go to see Disney World, et cetera, et cetera. As soon as there's a little bit of an opening to go into a restaurant, they open restaurants in New York, 25% can go sit down, everybody's sitting down. And so this is a sign of the economy. I mean, copper is obviously a metal that's used in building construction. It's used in electronic manufacturing. It's an important metal. And I think that's the best proxy for the expectation of the economic bounce that everyone is starting to smell.
Mm-hmm. And Adam, do you have that sentiment as well, that we're on the cusp of an economic boom time?
I think, yeah, absolutely. There's no question. There's a tremendous amount of pent up demand. Jeff Z and Jeff Y are right on the money. I'm going to use this magic letter X for the one big theme of the week. And what does X mean? The number of cases, hospitalizations, to Jeff Z's point, are going straight down. That's one side of the X. And the other side, vaccinations are going straight up. So we've got an X going on. And in this case, an X is a good thing. Normally an X is a bad thing. In this case, X is a good thing. That being said, as long as that trend continues, and we don't see any reason why it wouldn't continue, the economy is continuing to improve every single day. Demand is picking up. There's no question. We have a tremendous amount of pent-up demand. We're seeing that with bookings down the road for the airlines and for hotels and for so on and so forth, cruise lines, all that other fun stuff too. And we're seeing a lot more economic activity. And you've got a ton of cash on the sideline. So we're going to have pullbacks. We're going to have corrections along the way. Nothing goes straight up. There's an old adage on Wall Street says the market takes the stairs up and then the elevator down. So we're going to see those pullbacks, but notwithstanding, some pullbacks and corrections, which are normal, bearing some unforeseen event, that X will likely send stocks higher.
You bet. I've also noticed that the safe harbor assets are kind of taking it on the chin, which would seem to affirm that the risk on trade is going to dominate going into second quarter of 2021. But what about Bitcoin? Bitcoin at $50,000 suggests that there's a bit of an alternative dollar play very much alive and well. And I asked this in the last quarter of last year, and it wasn't that well received, but to me, it looks like Bitcoin is now definitively eating gold's lunch. And would you concur with that, Jeff Yasteen?
I would for now, okay? And it's doing so because every hedge fund and the brother-in-law of every hedge fund manager, as well as, every person, every shoe shine boy on the street, so to speak, is into this in a big way. In many ways, I'm heartened. Like, as we're talking right now, gold's down like $30 an ounce, and it's, I think, at its lowest point, it's equaling a low from a handful of weeks ago, and probably the lowest in like 6, 8, 9 months. And I'm actually heartened by that, because I feel like in many ways, if you're looking to buy or sell sentiment, the sentiment is extremely high, extremely bullish on Bitcoin. And I'm not saying it can't, that it can't move to 100,000, et cetera, at some point in the future. But what I'm saying is, when everybody gets so excited about this stuff, I just instinctively, my warning lights come on, as where when I see gold just being sold like this. And again, if you own gold, or if you're like a big, gold bug type investor, you're like, oh crap, man, it's just taking it on the chin. And, it's like, I'm just done with this. I'm just going to buy Bitcoin and just do what everybody else is doing. And, and that's the sort of mentality and thought process that all of us struggle with at tops and at bottoms. So this is where I say, yes, it's not good for gold right now, but I wouldn't doubt that at some point, when the Fed starts making a few noises about interest rates, and gee, maybe we shouldn't, have pedal to the metal on easy money, until 2024. Maybe we need to rethink that. As soon as we start seeing a few statements like that coming from Fed bank presidents, much less the Fed chief Powell, that could suck some of the wind out of the momentum, that has fueled the sort of risk-on story here. And to me, Bitcoin is the ultimate sort of risk-on asset in this cycle. And if that reverses, and I think it will at some point, probably soon, maybe the next 2 months or so, then I think gold will catch a bid at that point. That's just the way I tend to view things.
Mm-hmm. Okay. And Jeff Z, do you think that there's been any incremental sort of incursion into the mind space of gold by Bitcoin and crypto as a result of the younger generation being more inclined towards crypto over precious metals because that's my father's safe haven asset?
I don't think Bitcoin is regarded as a safe haven asset. I think that it's got the profile, as Jeff Y was just alluding to, of a risk-on, high beta, high risk, high return type asset. And I own a little bit, and you should own it in a small amount, knowing that it's high test and knowing that it has extreme moves, et cetera, et cetera. But I think it's kind of a false narrative that it's being bought as this store of wealth. It's not a store of wealth. A store of wealth is something that you can go to sleep at night knowing that the next day, if you need to convert it into fiat currency, it's going to be stable around the same level that you went to sleep the night before. Bitcoin is not that. Bitcoin is much more akin to a high-flying mid-cap growth company in a very hot sector like cannabis, like whatever, EV. It's more akin to that than it is to gold. I think it's kind of a false narrative comparing the two. I think that they both have a role in investing, but I think the comparison is a spurious one at best.
Okay, fair enough. I bring it up because that's what I've been hearing from Bitcoin sort of advocates, is that it is the next generation safe haven asset alternative to U.S. dollar. But I'm on the other side of the fence with that. So you're saying that the entire value of Bitcoin is mostly driven by speculation then?
I'm saying people buy gold to keep wealth. I'm saying people are buying Bitcoin to try to get rich. And it's an inverse mentality. Everyone that I know that has gold already has money. And it's like, I don't want to not have money. And everyone that I know that is speculating in Bitcoin in a massive way, for the most part, besides the cheerleaders, are doing it with the idea that it's going to gain 100 to 200%. You don't buy gold. I mean, it could go that way, but most people I know that buy gold, they're like, okay, I want something safe that I know I'll have, 100 grand, 50, 500 grand there. If I need it, it's going to be there. It's solid. It's not going anywhere. That's not what people are thinking when they buy Bitcoin.
That's true. Adam, what do you think when you buy Bitcoin?
Yeah, I'll tell you, I've been bullish on crypto for a while as a quote unquote crypto advocate. You need to understand that Jeff Z's point and Jeff Y and you too, James, you're spot on. Crypto and Bitcoin, all that kind of fun stuff. The daily range in Bitcoin, the 1 day volatility, is equal to, I think, 1 year in the S&P 500 or something crazy like that, where the volatility is off the charts. So if you buy Bitcoin with the idea that it's going to be a safe haven and replace gold, I think you're missing the whole entire point of Bitcoin. And you're missing the whole entire point of gold. I mean, for that matter, gold is a safe haven. It always was. It always will be. No question. There's room in the portfolio for both. I don't think it's buy one and sell the other. And to my, just in general, gold this year, I mean, in the past 12 months, since the COVID, meltdown in March of 2020, gold soared to all-time highs. And now it's pulling back. Yes, granted, it's a very steep and long and not fun pullback. But there, at the same time, Bitcoin wasn't really doing much. And then when gold started pulling back in Q3 and Q4, what happened? Bitcoin started taking off. So there is room for both. I don't subscribe to the notion of, Bitcoin's going to replace gold just because the volatility, as pension funds or any institutional investors, you can't have swings of 10 to 15%, 20% in a few hours, let alone in a few days or weeks in that kind of a portfolio. It's not right for your fiduciary responsibilities. It's not right for your constituents. It's not right for your beneficiaries. You just can't do that. Now, if Bitcoin gets its volatility under control, that might change the playing field. But James, to your point too, which is really, really important, the younger generation, this is all they see. So if you take somebody outside when it's 70 degrees Fahrenheit or 20 Celsius, and you say, hey, it's sunny skies, everything is beautiful. They're born and raised, they live their whole life in, let's say, Southern California, every day, and then all of a sudden you drop them in the Arctic. They're going to think every single day the sun is shining and it never rains. And then they're blindsided by what could come. So the younger generations that have been trading for the last decade or so, this is all they know is markets that go straight up. They see Bitcoin, had I put $1,000 there 10 years ago, be worth $50 gazillion now. Oh no, of course it's going to work. That's all they know. That doesn't mean that's going to continue to happen in the future, just like weather. It doesn't mean that every single day is going to be sunny. So you have to understand, to the younger audience and even older, anyone interested, understand history. Markets, they rhyme, they repeat, all that kind of fun stuff. This is another one of those, like Dalio says, the bubbles happen. Bitcoin will go down. Even me being bullish on Bitcoin, it will go down. It's inevitable. It's a matter of when, not if. So just be very, very careful and put everything in proper context.
Sure. Okay. So this being the top of the week, and we seem to be seeing a solidification of certain trends going into the latter part of the first quarter of 2021. Our subscribers and viewers want to know, so what's the trade this week that I should be most focused on understanding to deploy capital into? Jeff Yasteen?
I have to tell you where I'm starting to like opportunities, and it's not really a trade for this week, but I know I've been deploying more of my money in that direction, is in emerging markets. And it goes in many ways towards this idea of the commodities, super cycle, higher interest rates, overall rebound, because a lot of these emerging markets, Brazil's a good place where the market's been beaten down for a long time. And in part, that's because commodities, they produce a lot of iron ore and other essential commodities, industrial metals there. That's a place where as those markets for those metals start to perk up, that's going to perk up the entire Brazilian economy, as well as they'll be coming out of the this horrible COVID-19 situation they have down there. As all that happens, to me that's a great area to look at. So like like I've been looking at this stock. It's Arcos Dorados, which is basically they own the McDonald's franchise rights across all of Latin America, and ARCO. And it's just one of these stocks that has been beaten up, beaten down. It's profitable. They pay a small dividend. And it's like stocks like that, cement companies, those sorts of things that work down there are great places, I think, to start looking at parking money now, because they're at the bottom of the cycle and they're going to pay multiples of gains as this unfolding global rebound begins to happen.
Yeah, well said. I actually follow Peru closely because I used to live there, and in my more mining days, and Peru is predicting 12% economic growth in 2021. And during the financial crisis of 2009, Peru was the top grossing economy in South America. So, Jeff Zananiri, do you concur with the prognosis for emerging markets?
I like the mining. I like the mining heavy emerging markets. I do, and a lot of them, like the South American ones, South Africa. Those places are dependent on mining, and I think you have to be a little bit careful in terms of some of the more peripheral emerging markets, because they get all lumped together. So if you go look at the EEM, for instance, you're buying Samsung. I don't know if you like, it's like 20% of the EEM is Samsung. And people think they're buying Vale and Rio Tinto, but they're buying Samsung. So you have to have an opinion on the electronics market, semiconductor market. I'm bullish on semis, but I think people need to do a little bit of homework. I like the play that Jeff Y just mentioned with the McDonald's rights. A place I'm looking, and I talked about it last week, was cannabis. I think that sell-off in cannabis was extraordinary. I think it was spawned by the fact that it got brushed with the same paint as Reddit stocks, and I think it's an entirely different case. So I think if people have a long-term bullish view of the space, which I do, I think it's going to be, when we look back at 2021, the home run sector. You want those kind of fresh rainstorms to as an entry point. And some of the stocks are up today. They're not up enough based on the kind of sell-off we had last week. I think you can't go wrong looking at some of the bigger blue chip names in the cannabis space.
Yeah, you're preaching to the converted here for sure. I've got cannabis coming out my yin yang. And I've always been an advocate for it, and I felt that this third wave would be the strongest. So Adam, what's your take on the most sort of attractive sector from a subscriber's perspective?
Sure. I echo what you guys are saying. There's no question cannabis is going to be higher the next 3 to 5 years, especially with the legalization coming soon. And understand too, the same conversation with Bitcoin, how you had these huge moves and then notwithstanding very sharp and severe corrections and pullbacks, same thing with any kind of really sharp move. Whenever you have stocks like cannabis stocks that soared, rightfully so, on major political news, they're due to pull back. And just because you get pulling, the market or the stock pulls back or the Bitcoin pulls back, doesn't mean that it's be all end all. That's it. Good night, Irene. It just happens to be, hey, sharp pullbacks happen along multi-year upward trends. So of course, according to your time frame, all that kind of fun stuff, you've got to be careful. But with respect to other areas, I like the transportation stocks a lot. We're seeing shipping stocks explode higher. There's a lot of money moving into that sector. And Jeff Y, I'm sure a sector that you've mentioned before and you like because it's been really undervalued for a long time. And you're just seeing a massive, massive move. Tremendous amount of money is flowing into those areas. What I call the kingmakers are really buying those with two hands. You've got the railroads doing well. You've got other transportation stocks like the IYTs, an ETF that tracks the transportation stocks on a whole, are doing very, very well. And then, of course, the reflation trade that we talked about on the show for the last several weeks. The commodity stocks are going higher. I'm a big fan of that area as well. They also been left for dead. Not all commodities, obviously, but the gold and silver haven't really gotten going yet because of the bigger tailwinds or bigger headwinds, we just talked about. But other areas of the commodities like the agriculture stocks are doing exceptionally well. So those are some areas that I'm focusing on over the next 3 to 6 months. And I think they're going much, much higher.
Mm-hmm. All right, gentlemen, that's a great session today. We're going to leave it there for now. And thank you very much for joining me. We'll talk to you all towards the end of the week. Have a great week.